Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas Bailey. I'm the Technical Product Manager of Dimensions Research Integrity, which is a family of products recently created by Dimensions, including the Dimensions Research Integrity app, which we released a couple of weeks ago. And now I'm going to take less than 15 minutes, hopefully, to tell you a bit about the app, a bit about why we created it and why it's so useful and so needed now. I've put so much into this presentation that we might not have very much time for questions. However, I will be around later for a roundtable discussion of research integrity. So if you can join me for that later, please ask me questions then. So I joined digital science around a year ago as part of a company called Repater. Has anybody heard of Repater? Have you had discussions about Repater? I see a few people nodding. So Repater was really interested. I'm not going to walk away from the microphone. I'll stay over here. So Repater was really interested in how do we know that we can trust published research? And in particular, Repater created AI models through machine learning that could spot whether published research, excuse me, I'm going to say, whose laptop am I working with here? Yeah, okay. So Repater created AI models that could spot whether research manuscripts contained the hallmarks of transparent, reproducible, trustworthy research, which we call trust markers. These are often taking the form of statements within a piece of research, like a data availability statement saying, here's where I've stored my data, probably in Figshare, so that you can access it to validate my findings or do your own research using the same data. And these might be to do with authorship and credit for research. These might be to do with reproducibility or transparency. For example, has my research had ethical approval from an internal review board? All of these good things. And in fact, the research community has produced an immense number of guidelines that say what should be in published research. And so Repater drew upon those and looked for commonalities and trained AI models to help people see whether manuscripts had those things at scale. So we produced web services and consultancy using these AI models to help people raise their standards of research integrity in terms of reproducibility and transparency. In the last year or so, Repater has been on a journey to become part of Dimensions. It's now called Dimensions Research Integrity. All the great stuff that Repater was doing is part of Dimensions Research Integrity, but by combining the AI models created by Repater with the enormous data infrastructure of Dimensions, we've been able to create something even more exciting, which hopefully I can demonstrate for you today. So to motivate what I'm showing you, let's think about research integrity and what research integrity is. Sometimes it's easier to think about what is poor research integrity. So can anyone give me some examples of what good research integrity is or what bad research integrity might look like? Okay, that's interesting. So, that's absolutely fine. So there are broadly two different ways of thinking about research integrity, and anyone's definition of research integrity, I think, includes both, but there'll be a different balance depending on where you sit. So if you're in the US, then, and you're in the research integrity office of a university, then your idea of research integrity is to do with falsification and fabrication and plagiarism and research security and avoiding the actions of people acting in bad faith, these bad actors. So your work is probably likely to be quite allegation-based, quite allegation-driven in a sense, that you will hear that there might be a problem and you have to chase it up and make sure there isn't one, or deal with it if it does exist. There's this other way of thinking about research integrity, which is integrity in the sense that we talk about structural integrity of a building. And what a place to be talking about the structural integrity of buildings. I hadn't really made that connection when I was putting these slides together. So new science is built on top of old science like bricks in a wall. And if the science that's being built upon isn't reproducible, isn't trustworthy, is wrong, is fabricated, then the things that are built on that are going to be equally unstable and unreliable. So the reason I like this way of thinking about research integrity so much, and this way of thinking about research integrity is really about transparency and reproducibility and trust, is that it's possible to work on this very proactively. Rather than responding to allegations about bad actors, you can say, well, what can I do in my institution? What interventions can I make to improve reproducibility and transparency? Here are 3 of my favorite examples about research integrity issues that are not to do with bad actors. The first one in the top left is an article from Nature in 2014 called Make Mouse Studies Work. It's about translational research, and it makes the point that 80% of all therapeutics that look promising in mice do not work when they come to be tested on human subjects. And a part of why that is because the murine research is not reproducible. It perhaps is reporting noise as a result. It's maybe not controlling for confounding variables well enough. And this is not because of bad actors. This is because the researchers just didn't see the flaw in their process. And if the process had been more transparent, they could have been better supported. But the fact is there's a human cost to this, because the more reliable we make mouse research, the greater the probability that if you're a person with a life-changing condition taking part in a human trial, the greater the probability that you're going to get a really good outcome. An even easier to explain example is the cost of irreproducibility. That was a study in PLOS Biology, here reported in the magazine Science. And that says in the US alone, tens of billions of dollars is spent on research that is not reproducible. Tens of billions of dollars. And the final example at the bottom was published in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology, and the authors found that when they contacted all the authors of papers in Biomed Central in January of 2019 who had said, contact us if you want our data, or data available on request, they found, does anyone know what they found? I think you suspect what they found. They found that 86% of authors didn't respond at all. And the majority of those who did respond would not share their data. These people are not bad actors, but they're very, very busy. And they don't know where their data is. They should have put it in Figshare. They should have done something with it so that the person reading their paper could go and get the data without having to go to the authors. This is not a Biomed Central problem. This is a scientific community problem that we all have to solve together. Here's a really interesting document. Did anyone catch this? The Science, Innovation and Technology Select Committee submitted this report about how we could change the REF. They recommended that the Future Research Assessment Programme should review the Research Excellence Framework assessment criteria to ensure that transparency is a prerequisite of top-scoring research. I don't think those highlights are quite where I intended them to be, but nevertheless, this is pretty important stuff. If you include, as this document does, if you personally include transparency and reproducibility within the same sort of gamut as research integrity, then this is an important alignment with your way of thinking. What if the REF did include transparency as part of its criteria? Well, you would want to make sure that you improve transparency at your organization. Unfortunately, there are lots of resources out there to help you do that. For example, this is an excerpt from a document from a European Commission project called SOPs for RI, Standard Operating Procedures for Research Integrity. This is a sort of infinity-shaped project plan, because obviously you want to keep doing it to make research integrity better and better. And at the beginning, you want to assess how good you are at these transparency, reproducibility factors. And at the end, you want to see whether the interventions you put in place, maybe an educational intervention to train researchers or a policy intervention, whether those were effective. So you need to, at the beginning, gather lots and lots of research and go through it painstakingly and make statistics about whether it was including the things you wanted. Thank you. And at the end, you have to do exactly the same exercise with research that was published after your interventions to see whether things got better. This is a very expensive process, but it needs to be done because we need to be data informed when we do these things. So that's the motivation for the Dimensions Research Integrity dataset. All research institutions, funders, and publishers have a vested interest in improving their standards of research integrity, and there are free resources to help run research integrity improvement programs. And although there is increasing acknowledgement that these programs need to use data to inform interventions and measure results, there is now, as far as I'm aware, only one data set that continually gathers this data over tens of millions of publications, allowing organizations immediate access to the salient facts. And this is the data set of tens of millions of publications that we've put together. So the Dimensions Research Integrity app, and I've got minutes for you to spare, so hopefully I can give you a very quick demo, is intended to give you the easiest possible window into that data set. You don't need SQL skills or a business intelligence team who's available to do the analysis for you, although you can access it that way. The app allows you to immediately see what's going on. And the easiest way for me to show you that is just to log into the app. Let's hope this works. Ah, okay. I have a contingency plan. Oh, can I? Yeah, great.
Just might be surprises.
Yeah, this is exciting. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm Nicholas at Repeater. And I've set a super secret temporary password that's easy to remember so I can present it. No. Okay, so quick show of hands who uses Dimensions. Awesome, that's quite a lot of people. Even more of you should be using Dimensions. It's an amazing tool, especially for improving research integrity. We've recently launched this app. Would anyone like their institution to be the focus of what I'm about to show? No? Okay. Is there anyone from Jimma University in Ethiopia in the room? Good. Right. So I'm going straight, because I've got very little time, I'm going to go straight to the comparison section. And we're going to load up what I think is one of the most interesting parts of the app. I'm going to compare it. Anyone from Harvard? No? Good. That's another good miss. I like this game. So I'm going to choose a comparator organization for Jimma University in Ethiopia. And it's going to be Harvard. So it's a shame I don't have time to fully demo this app to you. I would love to. It's got so many cool features. And actually, what I would recommend you do is just get in touch with anyone here from Digital Science or Symplectic or me and say, can we please have a live demo of the app? And we will organize for your organization to see it in great detail. But what I'm going to show you now is perhaps a good starting point. A lot of sub-Saharan African countries, including Ethiopia, and especially Jimma University in Ethiopia, have incredibly high standards of reproducibility and transparency in their research and inclusion of trust markers in their research, which is why I chose that university. Well, it's partly I chose that university because none of you wanted to participate, but that's another reason why it's good to choose this one. And here we see Jimma University is always in green, and we can see it consistently taking Harvard University, one of the most prestigious universities in the world, to school in terms of inclusion of these trust markers in research. So here's a really particularly stark example involving ethical approval statements. What you can do with this app is you can see how you rank against country averages, against your peer organizations, and you can see where there's opportunities to improve. There's a lot of time series information in this app, so you can make interventions, and you can go back and you can measure whether those interventions made a difference for your organization. And through this process, like never ever before, you can set a really, really high standard for transparency and reproducibility. And if that becomes part of the criteria for the ref, you're going to be in a really good position. Is that all my time? Okay, I'm going to stop presenting.